Okay, it is 11 o'clock. It's time to get started. Welcome everyone to this webinar to the Transnational Access and Remote Access Applicants for Interact. My name is Hannele Savela and I'm the Transnational Access Coordinator in Interact, and I'm working at the University of Oulu in Northern Finland. We also have here joining us today Heli Niittynen, I think, who is our Transnational Access Project Planner. And then in the end of my presentation, I will also provide you with contact information to Heli. She is our primary contact if you have any questions after my presentation when you are preparing your applications. And Heli and I are both here in the TA coordination, helping you and supporting you throughout the process. I will now start sharing my screen and show you some slides at the same time while I'm speaking and telling a little bit more about transnational access in Interact. I hope you can all see my slides now. So the topic of today is Interact Transnational Access and what you should know when you are applying for transnational or remote access. Here you can see the listing of the topics that we are going to go through today. So I will tell you first something general about the Interact project and network. And then I will tell you about some general features of both physical transnational access and remote access. They both are different modalities of transnational access. And both modalities are available in this ongoing call. Then I'm going to tell you a little bit about the eligibility of the applicant for transnational and remote access. I'm going to tell you about the application process and about our online application system that is called InterAccess. Then I'm going to describe you the evaluation process and what kind of selection priorities we have for transnational access. And then we are going to go through some typical weaknesses in the application so that you can all avoid them, those weaknesses in your application, and you're going to be very successful candidates for transnational access. Then we are going to talk a little bit about what happens after you have received the transnational access or remote access decision and if you are granted access. And then something about the COVID-19 pandemics and its effect on transnational access. Then I'm going to provide you a to-do list when you are preparing your application, and then we have some time for questions and answers. And of course, if something comes into your mind, some question or some you don't understand something or something is unclear, you are of course always welcome to also interrupt me and ask your question right away. You can also submit your questions in the chat box. So Interact stands for the International Network for Terrestrial Research and Monitoring in the Arctic. That's the name of our project consortium. And this is a pan-Arctic network consisting of altogether 86 research stations throughout the Arctic and beyond. And we are funded from the EU Horizon 2020 infrastructures funding instrument, and we have altogether 10 million euros reaching over 4 years project funding period from 2020 to 2023. And in this EU-funded consortia, we have 63 consortium partners in 19 countries. And we are aiming to build capacity for monitoring, research, and education throughout the Arctic. We have many different work packages in the project. And the biggest one is the transnational access. And here we, of course, want to support world-class science that is conducted at the research stations. Then we have activities for the station managers, for international networking, for joint research activities, and also we do a lot of outreach, sharing information and experiences and knowledge through many to many different stakeholder groups. What transnational access means is free access to research infrastructures and installations. In other words, free access to these research stations offering access. We have altogether 53 research stations that are offering access, and the total volume of access provided during our 4-year funding period is 6,495 days. The maximum amount of transnational access that can be granted to one user group during our 4-year funding period is 90 days. So 3 months is the maximum amount of access that you can have during this funding period. And that's the maximum amount you can apply and the maximum amount you can be granted. What is realistic in terms of transnational access when you are considering how many days you are going to apply and for how many persons? I would say as a thumb rule that it's realistic to apply access from 1 to 3 persons at the time and to 1 to 3 stations. And the travel costs that you would be applying would be maybe something between 500 euros up to 15,000 euros. That is a kind of a general, it's not like some absolute requirement. So you can go lower or you can go higher, but this is something that we've learned from the experience that is kind of a realistic to apply. And why there is such a big variation in the amount of travel cost, of course, depends a lot on the station. The stations are located in very different conditions. Some are very remote and only serviced through chartered flights, whereas some stations can be reached with a regular train or a bus connection. So that is why there is such large variation in the travel costs that you are applying and you can be granted. So it's always good to take that into account when you are preparing your application and find out how to travel to the station. Then the eligibility is determined in such a way that transnational access to user group where majority of users are not from the EU member state or associated state is limited to 20% of the overall amount of access on the consortium level. And this is something that we are following from here, from Interact TA coordination. And at the moment, we don't need to limit the country of the applicants in any way. And what this transnational means is that the scientists are not eligible to their own national infrastructures. So in order to be eligible for transnational access, you have to apply access to another country than where you are working and residing. Then some words about the remote access, and as I mentioned, it is another modality of transnational access. So it means that you yourself are not traveling to the station, but the station staff will collect the samples according to your research plan for you. And we have altogether 33 stations that are offering this kind of a remote access to their facility, and that counts altogether 670 staff days during our 4-year funding period. And in this form of access, we are compensating to you the logistic costs. So if you need to send some equipment to the station so that they can conduct the study for you, that kind of cost we can cover. And then if the station is sending samples collected back to you, then we can also compensate for those costs. And it has the same application and evaluation process as the regular transnational access, where you as a scientist physically travel to the station and do the study yourself there. The good point in this remote access modality is that it is reducing the environmental footprint and you can avoid traveling. It is of course especially good now that we have very severe travel restrictions due to the COVID pandemics all over the world going on. It's also very suitable for this kind of a comparative approach if you want to compare different environments, for example, or do the study across an environmental gradient. It's also very well suited for studies where you want to collect samples from several stations. But on the other hand, it requires a relatively simple study setup. Then a couple words of this traditional form of access, physical transnational access. And this is of course something that we have been providing as the main modality of access, especially before the COVID pandemic started up. And as I already mentioned, it means free access to research infrastructures and installations. And compared to the remote access that I just told you about, it is of course more extensive. So when you are thinking of which modality of access to use, I think it's good to return back to these two slides, this physical transnational access and then the remote access that I just told you about, and think about kind of what would be the more realistic approach for your study when you are considering what modality of access to apply this time. So you have to first perhaps think about what would be the ideal stations for your study, and then see if they are offering only physical transnational access or if they are also offering remote access. Then of course you should consider the study setup, whether it's simple enough to be conducted by remote access, or whether it would require very specific expertise that perhaps you only or your team members have, meaning that this physical transnational access would be the preferred modality for your study. And then thirdly, of course, in the current situation, it's very important that you think about also the situation where you should be conducting the study. Like, are there at that moment a very severe travel restrictions, meaning that in fact you would not be able to travel yourself to the site, and it would be better if the station staff would conduct the study for you. And in that case, the remote access would be the better modality for your study. So we have all these different choices where you can choose from when you are preparing the application. So some words more about this eligibility of the applicant for transnational and remote access. As I mentioned, that scientists are not eligible for transnational access to their own national infrastructures. And here on this list of the bullet points, you can see some practical examples what this eligibility rule means in practice. So for example, scientists who are working and residing in Denmark, they are not eligible for access to Greenlandic stations that are operated by Danish institutions, because these Greenlandic stations that are operated by Danish institutions are considered national infrastructures for applicants working and residing in Denmark. Scientists working and residing in Czech Republic are not eligible for access to Czech Arctic Research Station in Svalbard. Scientists who are working and residing in UK are not eligible to British Arctic Station in Svalbard. Even though it's in the different geographical location, it is operated by the national organization, and therefore the British applicant, UK applicants are not considered eligible there. And the same applies to scientists who are working and residing in Poland. They are not eligible to the Polish station in Svalbard. And scientists working and residing in Germany are not eligible for transnational access to station Samoylov in Russia, which is operated partially by the German organization. Then about the application process. So we have the call open now until mid-October for access taking place between April 2021 and March 2022. And we have had a slight modification in the available stations in this call due to this COVID-19. And normally we have 53 stations offering physical transnational access, but at this stage, this call, we have 52 stations that are available for physical transnational access. That is because one station already knows that they are not going to be open for visitors between the time period for access defined in this call. And then we have the normal amount of stations available for remote access. The call announcement and guidelines are available on our website. And here you can also see the website address to our Interaccess online application system. And that's where you go to prepare your application. So you create yourself a user account to the system and you prepare your application there. And you can also submit the appendixes required in the application to this system. And then it is the same Interaccess system where we are doing the eligibility check to the applications. Our evaluators are making the scientific evaluation to your application. And also the stations are submitting their access decisions in the same system. And then you get an email notification in the end of the process once the access decision has been made. That should take place by the end of February 2021. And then you can log into your Interaccess account and see the details of the access decision. If access was granted or not, and if it was granted for how many days and how much travel cost you were granted. So this is just how to show you how this Interaccess application and evaluation system looks like. You can see the front page there. And once you have created yourself a user account and before you start preparing your application, I really strongly recommend that you first start by reading this information for applicants and application manual. And they are both available on your account on the left-hand side menu. So by starting the process, reading the instructions, it will make everything a lot of easier for you, both that you know what kind of things are required in the application, and then also how to use this application system. Even though it's a very simple one, but it's always good to learn beforehand, and then you learn more when you get started. And as I told you already, this system includes the whole transnational access application and evaluation process, the decision process, and also if you are granted access, then you submit your project report into the same system once you have made your access visit or the station has made the remote access for you. This slide is about the evaluation criteria. So we have a TA board, a transnational access board that consists of really internationally recognized scientists, and they are making a scientific evaluation of your application. And they make, based on the evaluation, recommendation to the research stations whether your project should be supported for transnational access or not. And each application is graded for several evaluation criteria. The first one is the scientific quality of the planned research. Then, of course, the scientific merit of the user group leader, the relevance of the research for the Interact goals, and then the value for money, if it's very cost efficient or not. And each of these 4 criteria is scored from 1 to 5, where score 1 is the lowest one, and then score 5 means excellent. And the ranking of the applications is based on these total scores, that is 20 in maximum. And based on these evaluations, the scores, and also a very thorough discussion in the TA board meeting, the board then makes recommendations of the user groups for transnational access to the research stations. And it is the research stations who then make the final access decisions based on the recommendations. the feasibility of the project at the station strategy and the station's focus areas, and so on. So we have a two-stage evaluation and decision process. In addition to the scoring, we also have some selection priorities. And the evaluation of the user groups, the TA, the transnational access groups, is based on the evaluation criteria, but also we are taking into account that priority is given to user groups who have not previously been at the station and who are working in countries that have no equivalent research infrastructure. And we are asking justification from you about this in the application form. So you have to be able to justify that you don't have a similar national infrastructure or station where you could actually do the study without transnational access. So this is an important point, the second bullet point. And you need to consider carefully the justification, that it's a solid justification why you are applying transnational access. Then we are also giving priority to scientists and research groups who apply working at more than one location to create comparative studies. And of course, we also want to support early career scientists who have less than 5 years from a PhD degree. These bullet points contain some typical weaknesses that we've observed in the applications throughout the years since 2011 when we started with this transnational access program. The first one is that the application instructions have not been read or followed. And that is why I'm urging you to start by reading the instructions for the applicants. There can be some problems with the eligibility, with the budgeting, that it's completely unreasonable, or you are applying for budget items that are not supported in transnational access. It's important to know that we are only supporting travel and logistic costs. And then, of course, accommodation and the use of station facilities is covered, compensated for you. So we are not, for example, supporting for salaries. So that is a non-eligible budget item, and you should not include any salary costs, for example, into your application. And then, of course, it's also important to follow the instruction what comes to the length and form of the required appendixes. And what we are only asking for a research plan, and that is a structured research plan. The maximum page number, the page limitation is 6 pages, including references. And then you can also include, or you should include your resume with the application. Then the second point, the second typical weakness is that the applicant has not done your homework on what has already been done on the topic at the station or region. So you are encouraged to read the station description on the Interact website to learn what kind of studies have been done at the station before. And if needed, you can always also contact the station manager to have some more detailed questions to ask about the history of that kind of a research at the station that you are planning to do. Then, of course, it's important to justify the importance and novelty of your applied research, and also to check already before you submit the application the feasibility of your study at the station. For example, what comes to the travel and logistic arrangements, the amount of access days that you estimate to need for the study, what kind of facilities would you need for your studies, are they available at the station? You can find all this information from the field site descriptions or the station descriptions on the Interact website. And then also it's important that you find out some background information about the local conditions at the stations. For example, of the species occurring there. If you are studying a certain species, please be first sure that that species actually occurs at the station. You can always contact the station to ask about that. On our website, we also provide the contact information to all station managers and station contacts, so that you can write or email to them beforehand, before you submit your application, and ask if you have any questions or anything is unclear. Then what happens after you have received your grant decision, and if you have been granted transnational or remote access? So we send these decisions out in the inter-access system. And this access decision includes the amount of the granted person days, the amount of granted travel and logistic costs. And after you have received the decision, you have then again the right to either accept or reject the granted access. We have also this kind of activity to all our TA users that is called TA user community. And it means that we are arranging many different kinds of events to our TA users. So we have different webinars for information, to let each other know what each other is doing. We can have webinars about the science that is done with transnational access. We also are arranging webinar to provide you information about upcoming reporting, practical information regarding the transnational access visits, and so on. Many different kinds of activities. We also have a transnational access user group, Facebook group for discussions and practical questions. A lot of information have been shared about this COVID-19 effects on transnational access in this Facebook group, for example. It is a closed group, so it's very good for these kinds of discussions. And then we have different kinds of meetings online, and also back-to-back with congresses, whenever these physical congresses are again arranged. Couple issues that you should remember or you should know that are on your responsibility before the access visits and after the access visits. So before the transnational access visit, the TA users make their own travel arrangements, arrange their own flight, take care of different kinds of licenses, applications, if any permits are required to conduct the study at the station. Those are under your responsibility, and you should take care of those arrangements yourself. Also, it's good to know that insurance costs are non-eligible costs, so we are not compensating or we are not reimbursing any insurance costs to you. So you have to be able to cover your insurance coverage by yourself or by some other grant, or that your organization or institution is paying you your insurance costs. But of course, we and the stations can provide you consultation if you need any advice. We are here to help. Then after your transnational access visit, you are required to submit a project report. And there is a very simple and short template for that available in InterAccess. So you simply set your project for the reporting, and that opens this reporting form, and then you type your text into the form and submit it. And that's quite a simple procedure. And at the same time, we also ask some feedback from you about the transnational access. And the second bullet point here after the TA visit is important. It is that the travel and logistic costs are reimbursed to you after the visit. And these travel reimbursements are made by the stations. So here in the TA coordination, we are providing advice and consultation, and we are arranging the calls and the evaluation process. But after you have been granted access, then you take care of the practical arrangements, what comes to the travel, and then the station is compensating you the travel cost. So in this way, the transnational access is quite different than many traditional research funds. So if you are granted access, you do not receive any lump of money beforehand. but you are compensated after your access visit or after the access has been done by the station against to the amount of the actual costs that have occurred. So you are preparing a travel claim, for example, and then attaching the original receipts with that, and then you submit the travel claim to the station, and you are then reimbursed against the actual direct costs. And when you receive the access decision and it states there that you have been granted 20 days, for example, and 1,000 euros for travel costs, that 1,000 euros, it means the budget. So you are compensated or reimbursed after your visit up to the 1,000 euros for travel costs. Okay. Then this slide is about the COVID-19 and transnational access. So we are proceeding in the regular manner according to our normal procedure, what comes to this call and the evaluation process and the access decision process. But of course, it's really important to follow the national and regional regulations on travel and safety. And we are doing that. And those are always taken into account then when you are planning the access visit to the station. So if these national and regional regulations on travel and safety require, then it is possible in that case to postpone your granted access, or you can also negotiate a shift from physical access to remote access with the station. And in connection to this, we encourage that you are booking transferable or refundable flights when you are making travel arrangements if you have been granted physical access. And then, of course, it's very important to take care that your travel insurance is up to date. So the system works in such a manner that if you need to postpone or shift the modality of granted access, you contact the station and agree with the station on the possible postponement or shift of access modality. And once you have contacted the station and you have both agreed how to proceed, then you inform us at the TA coordination about this postponement or the change in access modality, and then also provide us the new estimated time when you would be visiting the station. So it is that kind of a practical process, and it can be done, and everyone has to be flexible in this matter. So this list is the applicant to-do list. It has 7 different bullet points here. So first, of course, you should visit the call pages and read the call instruction and announcement carefully. Then register to our online application system. Read the information for applicants and application manual, and after that, start preparing your application. Then you should also find out information about the station where you are planning to apply for access. And you can find from our website these field sites descriptions. And you can also find the listing of the infrastructures, the stations that are available for transnational and remote access. And then, of course, you are also welcome to contact the station manager to ask about the feasibility of your study to the station and if there are any specific permitting or licenses required. Then you should check and think your eligibility for transnational access to the station where you plan to apply, that you are not by accident applying to your own national research infrastructure and then you would be non-eligible for the access. Then you should learn what has already been done on the topic at the station or region and build your research plan based on that information. Then you should take care of clearly justifying the importance and novelty of your applied research. And then the last point is to check your budget and carefully read the budgeting information that is available in this information for applicants booklet that is also embedded into the InterAccess application system. Then this last slide is about our third modality of access, that is virtual access, and that is at all times available on the Interact website, and it means free and open access to data and metadata from the stations. And that is offered by 32 partners in Interact. And there is no application process for this virtual access modality, so you can always find it from our website, and you can utilize this virtual access data freely and as you wish to supplement the data that you obtain with transnational or remote access. And really, these data sets that are offered by virtual access, they really are in many stations include very unique retrospective or historical data that has been made available through virtual access. So I encourage you to take a look at this virtual access data as well and see what you can find there, if there's something that can supplement your data or provide some new insights to the topics that you're studying. So thanks for your attention. This was my presentation, and here on this last slide you can see the contact information, both mine and then Heli Niittynen contact information, and Heli is the primary contact. You're always welcome to email her and ask for advice when you are preparing the application, and we always try to support you in the best possible way and try to get back to you as soon as possible if you have questions. Do you have questions now that we have some time to discuss, and I can provide you some answers if there's something that remained unclear?
Yeah, I might have a question.
Yes, please.
I can turn on my video, so
yeah, great.
Everyone can hopefully see me. Well, I was just wondering, what is a user group? Is that a project, or is that?
Yeah, it is more. Yeah, it is more or less the project. The project is, of course, the kind of the entity. The user group is the principal investigator who's named as the user group leader, and then there is those team members whom you are applying access. So that is it is kind of the EU terminology that they are using for transnational access.
All right.
Yeah, so if you are applying access for yourself as a group leader, and then, for example, to two other people, then you are the user group in our.
All right. So the same people could, if the same people applied for another project another year, then that would be another user group then.
Yeah, it's considered that the groups with the same PI and the kind of the same topic are considered the same user group.
Okay. So
if you can be a group member in another user group, that is not a problem. But if you are applying as a principal investigator, as the group leader, then it's considered from your perspective as the same user group.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So you as the group leader can be granted maximum 90 days during the 4-year time period. Yeah.
Okay, understand. And what is it possible now? Please stop me if anyone else sort of wants to say something, right? Well, is it possible to get both transnational access and remote access on the same project?
Yes, absolutely. And you can then just define in the application form that you can choose the station, and you can choose the modality, either physical access or remote access. Of course, the only limitation is that if the station is not offering remote access, then it's not available.
No.
Yeah. But then it's also visible on the how to say, in the application form. So if they offer remote access, then it's available to choose. But if not, then you cannot even see it when you choose the station.
Yeah. Okay, good. And one last question, if no one else then. Is if you're applying for money for a project that is sort of dependent on money for another grant that you don't know whether or not you're going to receive, then do you have to sort of state that somewhere in the application, or do you just then reject the grant once you get it?
It's asked. It's
Okay.
asked if you have any other funding or if you have applied. So you can specify it, and I think it's good to specify it. It's good to mention it. And then if you are granted that money, then we can kind of match it.
Okay.
Yeah. Then we can
Very
match
good.
it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, thanks for really good questions. Are there any other questions?
Yes, can I ask some questions, please?
Yes, please.
Hi.
Hi.
Let's see if I can start my video. Okay, right. You can probably see me.
Yeah.
Thanks for the presentation. It was really, really helpful. So I wanted to ask if, for example, one asks for the physical access for, let's say, summer 2021. Would it be possible to, is it possible to ask in the same application for the remote access in the following year to retrieve data for, let's say, the same project, or one has to reapply the following year?
Basically, you should reapply.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think that so we have defined the call period so that you cannot even choose dates that are beyond the defined period now. So you can't basically do it in the system to apply for 2022. But I think it would be good that you then just indicate in your research plan that that you would need to that you are going to apply then remote access to retrieve the equipment in 22. And I think it's pretty good prospect that.
Okay.
And it can be anyhow, even though you know, it can be arranged. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks a lot. And then if I can ask, I'm sorry that it's a very specific question for a particular station, so I hope it's helpful for the other listeners too, but it's quite specific. So if one wished to apply for the Arctic station in Disco Island in Greenland, is it possible, does the transnational access application cover for the use of the pore-sealed ship, so for the facility, for that facility of the Arctic station? Or should I ask?
No, if I remember correctly, it does not. That at least you should, there is a price list for the station, and in that sense it's a generic question. So many other stations also have these ships, and they have these different kinds of how to say, services like snowmobiles and such things that you can rent for your study. So you should include it into your budget, the use of pore-sealed. And there's usually always a price list on the station website that defines that, okay, the use of the boat is this and this many euros per hour or so. So please include that into the budget.
Okay,
so you can apply for that support, but you should define it in the budget. How much is it?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And the same goes for other stations as well, if there's like snow scooter rent or some equipment rent or something like that.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. And then you basically covered my third question. And then the final question is, if one is covered by an external fund, so if the project is funded by an external fund, is it more likely to succeed in the application, or you prefer projects that are, let's say, budget free?
I would say on the general terms that it's considered a positive if the TA board or the evaluators can see that you have kind of ensured that the project can be fully conducted, like how to say that, that it's good if the evaluators can see that, okay, if we provide you the transnational access to collect the samples, then you have some funds to perform the analysis and so on. So in that sense, I think it's good if you, yeah, because it shows that you can ensure that, you know, the project will be carried out completely and you're able to deliver the results and the publications. Because especially because this transnational access only covers this direct cost, this travel cost to the station and accommodation at the station. So therefore, there are no personnel costs that we are covering from here. So it's good if you have some other grants to show that you can cover this personnel cost, for example.
Sure. Okay, thank you very much.
And one thing I could actually add that kind of was evoked by what you asked is that it's also important for everyone to know that that it is really only limited to this, to the travel and logistic cost, and that we are supporting. Like, for example, we are not reimbursing or supporting a purchase of any equipment. So you can't, for example, buy skis and then we would pay for them. But you can, if you have to rent something, then that can be reimbursed. If you can show that it's necessary for you to, you know, you need skis to do the study, then you can rent the skis and we can compensate for that.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Good questions. Does anyone else have anything to ask?
Hello.
Hello.
Unfortunately, I don't have a video camera access
No
right
problem.
now for the project. I have two questions. One is a simple one. You have mentioned that there are 53 stations generally, but one station is limited due to the COVID-19.
Yeah.
If it's possible, can I learn that station?
Yes, yes, it is Western Arctic Research Station. They are in Canada.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, so they don't take any external visitors next year. So they only offer remote access in this call.
Thank you. And the other stations, if the proposed station is not available for the project, does the TA board direct your project to another station?
No, it is the no, it doesn't work that way, because it is only those stations that are available that are offering access that you are even able to select in the application form. So all those stations where you can apply are available, and then the TA board is only focusing on the scientific evaluation of the application and based on those criteria that I told you. But then the station who is making the final decisions, then they can sometimes, you know, if there are like 10 projects that are recommended to a station, then the station will see that okay, out of these 10 recommended projects, we are unfortunately only able to take 5 because we are not limited. So then they have to reject part of the project. But we are not doing that directing to another station. You can provide an alternative station that in very how to say, exceptional cases, we could do the shift before the access decision, but that has not been done many times. No, it is quite difficult to do it.
Thank you. That was
because
clear.
we have, as you know, we have so many stations in 19 different countries, so it would be really difficult. Yeah.
Thank you.
That is why also it's very good to pay attention and give a really thorough thought when you prepare the application, what would be the best stations for your study. And also that is why it's always usually a good idea also to contact the station beforehand to ask, how does it look like? Does your basic idea, you describe your basic idea for the study really shortly in just a couple sentences, and then say ask if it sounds feasible to the station. So then you know already a little bit if it makes sense to apply to that station. Any other questions? Okay, if not, then I really thank you for your attention and for really good questions. And if anything else comes to your mind, you're always welcome to email us and ask more. And please also be active in contacting the stations. They often have really good insights and can give you good advice when you are preparing application to their station. And if this was it, then thank you once more and wishing you all the best of success in the application process. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.